I cleaned it up. Woo! Oh, damn it.
I got to celebrate cleaning up. Ah, fuck. Celebrate cleaning up. Ah, fuck.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
I so wish that you listening could hear what happens before we hit record. I mean,
or just see it.
Just see it. I mean, literally, I don't know whether we'll be able to show it because there was no sound on it because we didn't have our mics plugged in yet. I may actually just overlay this section where I was trying to plug in our recorder and I can only imagine what it must have looked like on the screen because, yeah. It was a little interesting, to say the least.
We're kind of we're a little bit sardined into our area, so I can't move without lifting my leg up over my head,
and I'm like twisting to get in and what have you, because we have a cozy space. We live on an island, a very small island with not very large houses and not very large rooms. So yes, it's cozy. It's cozy. So before we start, I just wanted to share. I had the most incredible deep tissue massage yesterday. Now I wouldn't normally just come on and go, guess what I did yesterday, folks? But the reason I'm sharing is because if you are watching on the video, if you see my arm is also in Serena's screen. You just watch the video. You'll see I have some beautiful bruising where they got in deep. Which was great. But yeah, I wanted to just say that in case anyone was like, what the hell has she done to herself?
That was my reaction this morning when I walked in. Although we talked about it, I believe it was in the last episode, about how we embrace the clumsy in our lives.
Our ability to ricochet off everything.
Yes, and we ricochet quite often. So it's like, what did you do? Also, I can look at Claire the wrong way sometimes, and all of a sudden it turns kind of like purpley. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I have one of the things I got from my mother is an ability to bruise, if someone looks at me wrong. So so yeah, this is I mean, in some respects, I also have one on my butt, with the left hand side of my butt, and it was funny because the person I did with this morning was saying to me I thought you said that they didn't really go that much on the left side of your butt, but they did on the right. I'm like, I know. And they're like, but you've got a I'm like, I know. I don't know. I don't understand. But yeah, just to say, I'm more pretty colours today. I mean, purple is my favourite colour, but just maybe not in that form. Yeah. But it was good. But we have something way, way, way more important that we have to talk about today.
My pumpkin iced coffee. It's pumpkin season again. No, I'm excited. I am celebrating the fact it is pumpkin season.
I see what you did there. I
didn't even mean to. However, yesterday was the first day, and I wanted to bring it up many times, but I thought about it and then lost it, as I often do on these episodes, and it's not exactly the important content we need to get out there. However, when I pulled up my app and saw that pumpkin was back, and I'm not one of those kind of pumpkin spice girls. There is one specific pumpkin that I like, and it came back, and the joy it brought me, it was like bacon.
It was one of the first things that she said to me when she walked through the door yesterday. I got my pumpkin latte.
I was like, I got zero sleep, but it's pumpkin season, and it filled me up. And so I did. I celebrate. I'm like, yes, it's pumpkin season, and it's such a little. It's a little thing in the world, but it brings so much joy,
which is kind of the whole point of what we're talking about today. I mean, yes. I'm like, well, that wasn't what I was going to say, but yes, but this, but yes, but this,
and now back to the regularly scheduled content that doesn't have anything to do with my pumpkin latte.
Yeah, I said I see what you did there. So something that is even bigger than a pumpkin latte, if you can believe it.
I know. Let's see where she's going with it, though.
Today, This episode you are listening to right now is our 100th episode.
100 episodes.
You've been listening to us. Like, if you've been with us from the beginning, you've listened to us for 100 episodes. Like,
that's like
credit to
that
you.
Is probably hundreds of hours. Like,
I don't. You know what? I actually have a little tracker, and I will find out. In fact, let me see if I can do it right now.
yeah, I guess it wouldn't be 100. You've at least listened to us for 100 hours.
Okay, so based on you have a few episodes. I suspect you're close. So up to episode 93, we had 84 and a half hours of content that we had done, and now we're obviously up to 100. So we're probably not quite at 100, but you're damn close. Like, if you've listened to all of us from the beginning, thank you for being here. Like, we appreciate you so much. And like, this is such a, like, it's a really big moment for us, because when we first started talking about recording the podcast, somebody who had been podcasting for a long time gave us some advice and said, like, you really need to make sure you have plenty of content. Little did they know. In fact, they told us that most people who start a podcast don't get beyond 7 episodes because they run out of content. They run out of things to say. Now, there are times when I wish we were running out of things to say because we've got so many episodes planned. Like, literally almost every day that we kind of get together and talk about podcasts, one or other or both of us has put another idea into the list of things that we want to record.
And that adds to the already 300 plus list.
Right.
So it's like,
it is already in there.
and this, and this, and this, and this.
Right. Absolutely. So today, and I can imagine people going, where's the glitter? Where's the confetti? Why? What? Hold on a second. Where is it? So ready? 1, 2, 3. Whee! And if you're watching, I can imagine you going, well, that's not glitter. That's not right. Now, we had a conversation about this morning.
And you know
us.
Well, you know, you do. You know,
Yes.
you know
us well enough by now, I think.
the glitter, the confetti. We like to throw shit.
Like, the fact that Ann Niggle Monster, Mr. Niggles, has his own little glitter backpack that is on him at all times, and he is with us at all times when we're recording. Mm-hmm. We have glitter at the ready.
On demand.
On demand, anytime we need it. And we had the conversation this morning. It's like, it's the beginning of a day, and we have a few things. We have quite a lot we want to get done today. And Serena was like, I just don't want to clean up confetti. And I was like, I don't want to clean up confetti either. So we went and found a way of bringing confetti into our 100th episode without having to clean it up.
Because we wanted the celebration, but it didn't meet our needs to do the actual
Throw confetti everywhere today.
So what are our options?
Well, could we? And Serena was like, can you do it this way? And I'm like, hold on a second. Let me go see and find out if I can do it that way. And if I can do it that way, let's do it that way. And that's the way we decided to do it. So yeah, it's even, and this is the thing, is that, like, I think it's really important to kind of just note here. The thing that we would normally be all over, like, normally we'd be like, yeah, fling that glitter, throw that confetti.
Looking for excuses
Yes.
to throw glitter and confetti.
Which we do. We literally do. There are times when it's like, actually, the downside of that is not worth the upside of that. And it's like, if you've not listened to, like, obviously we're on 100th episode, so we've got a few in the bank. If you haven't gone back and listened to previous episodes, there is a link at the bottom of this to our episode guide where you can go and find all of the episodes we've ever recorded, all the show notes, so you can search for, like, the things that you might be interested in seeing about. One of the episodes I really highly recommend you go back and listen to is the needs formula episode, where it's like figuring out, balancing out, how does this meet my needs, how does it cost my needs? Because that's what happened this morning. We're like, well, it would meet our needs to throw confetti. It's going to cost our needs more than it's going to meet our needs to throw confetti. Okay, now we know we don't want to throw actual confetti. What do we want to create? We still want a celebration in our podcast episode. How do we do that in a way that doesn't compromise our needs in the same way? It's a really kind of simple and almost like silly little example of what happens when you have, like, I want to do this. Hold on a second. It's going to cost my needs to do this. How do I create something that will give me this without the downside? Mm-hmm. So today, I mean, we are celebrating, and, like, the fact that most people give up by episode 7, like, we have, if you haven't seen already, like, we have our shirts on. If you're not not watching on the video, why are you not watching on the video for a start? Because there's some really funny stuff that happens on the video. But if you're not watching the video, we have our Don't Believe Me, Just Watch shirts on, because I think that when we first started this whole podcast thing, some people were like, oh, that's cute. They're going to do a podcast.
Right there, that whether it was those words, and we did get those words a couple of times, like that phrasing, but there a lot of times there was that energy of like, oh, and like
we're like, do you know us? Have you seen us? And if anybody who knows us well knows, if we decide we're going to do something, we're going to do it. Like there is no half-assing here. And in fact, not only are we going to do it, we're probably going to do it and extra.
Yeah.
Like we live extra.
Yeah. Middle name.
I was just literally about to say, I think both of us have the middle name extra. So like when people are like, oh, that's cute. And it's like, no, like we're going to do this.
Or you're still doing that podcast thing? Yeah.
Like every week. Yeah. I'm really glad I told you about my bruise. I'm like realizing how like it's lit up. Like we have our lights. I'm like, oh, well, that looks pretty. So why, I mean, and it's funny because in the lead up to the 100th episode, we decided to go out to our community and to our listeners and be like, hey, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to hear us talk about in the 100th episode? And we've had some great ideas, and they are in that list of more than 300 ideas of things that we're going to record. They are coming. Don't worry. Every single idea we have ever received goes into that list, and it will get recorded. And it's not like we don't want to record them straight away. We do, but we also know that we're, like, as we talked about in the human episode, we want to record what feels most resonant at that point in time, so we can do it most justice, I suppose. Best way to describe it. Sorry, I had a little bit of air come up. I'm drinking kombucha. I was saying to Serena, the amount of times, like if you watch on the video, you may not pick it up on the audio, but if you watch on the video, there are times where I kind of like end up like puffy cheeked because I'm mid-sentence and I'm trying not to burp on the mic. It happens frequently. So we did have lots of people come to us with really great ideas. And then I was like, what we had already, like we talked about wanting to do an episode on celebrating your wins. I'm like, that needs to be our 100th episode. Like, why would it be anything other than that? We have some, and some of them are planned in the next kind of few episodes that are coming. So watch this space. If you've given us ideas, they are in the list. They are in the queue. They are going to be recorded. But I was like, well, what, like, I mean, celebrating your wins is a great way of meeting your needs. And it's something we are so bad at as a society. Like, I was saying to Serena, I was watching some videos on TikTok this morning. And I saw somebody who I follow who basically was being like criticized from like not knowing what they were talking about, to then they shared their credentials, and then someone else came along and went, oh, it's so good that you're modest. And I'm like, what? Seriously? This person is being told that they don't know what they're talking about, and then when they prove they know what they're talking about, then they're told that they're not modest enough. And I think that this whole like modesty culture is really detrimental to our needs. And this whole thing of like, oh, well, you shouldn't brag, and you shouldn't acknowledge yourself, and you shouldn't like celebrate like when you do things well. And honestly, fuck that. Just being frank, because that gets in the way of our needs. Because we have one need. I mean, it meets a number of different needs. There's lots of different needs that kind of come into play here. But there's one really important need that sits in the trunk of the universal needs tree, which is our acknowledgement need. Now, there are several ways we can meet our acknowledgement need. We can meet it through, get an acknowledgement through empathy. Like emotionally being acknowledged and validated. Now we can do that for ourselves. We can get that from other people. But empathy is empathy and compassion is a really good way of acknowledging, like in one aspect. Appreciating is a really good way of acknowledging somebody, like showing appreciation again for yourself, for other people. And then celebration is another really good way of acknowledging and getting our acknowledgement need. But this one tends to get forgotten or lost. Or more importantly, it doesn't get forgotten. We hold it back because we don't believe that we should be celebrating ourselves. We don't believe that other people will like us celebrating ourselves. And that sucks. Just being really honest, it sucks. Like, what the hell? Why are we being societally conditioned? I mean, I'm going to say this is like a rhetorical question. Why are we being societally conditioned to do something that goes against our needs? Well, a lot of our societal conditioning actually goes against the meeting of our needs.
Society for you.
Yes. Yay. But I think that when it comes to our acknowledgement need, I mean, and the funny thing is that when the needs were being developed, acknowledgement could sit under another need. There is another place that it could, like when I was kind of working on this, that it could sit, but it's such an important one. And it's such a compromised need in our culture that it felt really important to kind of bring it out and isolate it and be like, this is important. We need to empathize with people. We need to appreciate people. We need to celebrate in order that our needs, our internal needs, remember, this is in the trunk of the tree. So these are our intrinsic needs. And so these are the things that relate to our internal well-being. We need to be acknowledged. We need to feel seen. We need to feel heard. We need to be honored in what it is that we are doing. So, I mean, it's so easy in and a lot of our conditioning has us focusing on what we haven't done. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so easy. Like, we achieve something and all we do is we focus on the thing we haven't done, or how we didn't do it fast enough, or how we didn't do it good enough, or like it's all on what isn't rather than what is, right?
Yeah, we're kind of in a space like that. We've actually had recently in our own work and kind of a realization of celebrating like the little wins and things, because as we've mentioned many times, we're currently in the process of working on our self-study program, and there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of slides, a lot of content, a lot of things, and it's taken us a lot longer than we thought because we want to get it right for many reasons. We want to get it right.
So just to give you a hint, like we had initially planned at the beginning of this year. Now the beginning of this year did not go the way that we expected it to, with like Serena had surgery, the recovery took longer, etc., etc. We had planned initially that we wanted to have the content finished by the end of March. That was our initial goal. It is August 17th right now. I mean, it's not when you're listening because we're recording this in advance, but that's when we are recording, and we are still working on it. We still have significant way to go. We are, progress, huge progress, depending, like compared to where we were.
Right. But it's easy to be like, we're supposed to be here.
Yes,
we're failing.
Yeah.
It would be easily to go down, one of those spirals. And I mean, there have been times where one of us or both of us together are like, oh, and you get
at one point I never thought I was going to get out of module 3. I'm like, I just want to get past module 3. Like
I feel that way about module 6 the 10 times that I've been in it. But it's like we got so focused on, it's not done. We need to do this. This is what we have left. And then it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, that we're like, wow, we've made some real progress, and that's awesome. And the thing is, a celebration doesn't have to be confetti and streamers.
What?
It can be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
How cool would it be, though, if every teeny tiny little win, you were like, ta-da! I mean, that's how the emergency glitter started, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I have another example. Before I forget, I'm going to throw it out there so that it's not swirling in my head. But something that, like, I'd kind of like to acknowledge and celebrate for myself right now as a little win is 3 weeks ago when Larry died, like, I thought I was going to be in a hole for a year. Like, I thought I was never going to get out of that. I thought it was the end of life as I knew it, which in a sense, it was. Like,
it was it's chapter of life.
Yeah, that chapter closed. Like, that was the Larry chapter. So glad I had it. And I was even doing what we do, knowing how I am about grief. I was concerned for myself. Like, this is different. Where am I going to be with this? And I'm okay. Like, I'm not great. There are ups, there are downs. There's sometimes somebody's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good. And there's sometimes how are you doing? I'm like, ah. Yeah. And so, like, there's that balance. But I can celebrate the fact that I'm where I am today in this situation. And like, I am the type of person that would confetti myself for that. Look at me go. But I also understand for a lot of people that isn't where they would be with it, but that's still something like that's a step that I took. That was something that I did for my own, like I did the things to get to this step. And I look back and I'm like, even with where I was at, I took care of myself and I feel okay. I wasn't sure I was going to feel okay by this point, and I like to celebrate that.
Yeah, and actually, I want to kind of like jump off of what you've just said, because I think that I absolutely agree with everything that Serena has just said, and like completely valid. Yay, I'm celebrating with you too. Like all of that is true, and I think that sometimes we think that celebration has to be in the context of the things that societally we're meant to be doing. So there's an element of like, yes, I'm celebrating because I'm back to work and I'm doing all these things. Yes, all very, very, very valid. And if Serena was still in a puddle in her living room processing what she's feeling, that would be every bit as much as worthy of acknowledgement of like, look at me, I'm actually doing what I need to do to process this. And actually, you know what's really weird is when you start celebrating the things that people think you shouldn't be celebrating. It's like, yeah, I'm celebrating that I'm not working right now. I'm acknowledging myself for not pushing myself to go back to work. And Serena hasn't like pushed herself. She's honored herself every step of the way. But actually, like, I'm celebrating the fact that I'm lying in fucking bed today because I don't want to get up and do anything because I'm exhausted, and I have the capacity and I have the privilege to be able to do that because I don't have to get up and work today in order to pay my bills. Like, so it's like I'm not celebrating
stepping
I'm not celebrating the privilege. Like, I kind of merged two things together. Like, I was acknowledging the privilege and being able to do that in the context of what I was saying. So yeah, I'm not celebrating privilege in any way, shape or form. But what I'm saying is like, I'm celebrating myself for honoring what I need. And that's something that we are so bad as a society of doing. I really want to apologize for that sounding like I was coming across like I was celebrating. Like that feels really icky in my body. I'm like, I did not like mean that in the slightest. But I think that we are very bad at celebrating ourselves for honoring ourselves, celebrating ourselves for honoring what we need when other people might believe that we should be doing something different. As I said, I don't want to in any way negate what Serena just said, because I want to acknowledge that is every bit as worthy of acknowledgement as well. And there is another kind of layer to it that's worth considering.
Well, and I think I kind of got to this point because of there were points I was like, I'm staying in bed, and that's even I'm staying in bed today. That's okay. Saying that to myself is my own little personal celebration of self-care. It doesn't have to be like a good job, Serena. It can just be that acknowledgement of like, yeah, this feels good for me. Like, because so often I feel like we're, especially with the societal conditioning, we're like, we don't want to even admit when something like feels good, like just doing fucking nothing, because you're not in a space to do anything else. Like, our brains in society is like, no, you should be doing this and it needs to be done this way and this is what it looks like. Fuck all that shit. What works for you in the moment you're in, if you do that for yourself and you have the capacity and the desire, celebrate that. Like,
And I think that's, I mean, it's yes.
Hey, that's my answer.
Like, just yes to all of that. Like, so frequently we are like that whole thing about like we believing that in order to be acknowledged we have to be productive. So it's like, I mean, and we've talked about this on previous podcast episodes. It's like in a capitalistic society, there is this perception that the only thing to be acknowledged is when you are adding to that capitalistic society. So being quote unquote productive is the only thing that should be acknowledged or celebrated. And this is where we're like, we need to kind of collapse that thinking, because that way of thinking has us only being acknowledged when we are doing things that are quote unquote productive, even if those productive things are actually costing our needs, not meeting them. And this is where we kind of like start to unravel that thinking a little bit. And it's like, actually, it's interesting because obviously we have a very different relationship with our needs and with productivity and everything than most people do. If most people saw how we ran our business, they would be like, really? Like, if Serena's like, oh, I don't have it in me today, and I'm like, cool, go rest, take a nap. Like, I'm like literally we will encourage each other to do those things that most people would be like, yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah.
get back
We're
to work.
supposed to do this, and that today. I'm getting you should sleep. What do you think?
Okay. And then it's like, yeah. And that it is a very different way of doing things, but it is very much needs focused, because Serena and I both know that we could, and this has happened recently, where we've had a plan in place to do content on a certain day. And where we are at, we are not going to produce content that is worth anything. Like, normally what will end up happening is we'll have to go back and redo that content. So we'll not only not be productive in that day, but actually the day following will end up being redoing the stuff from the day before.
What the fuck were we thinking?
What was this? I mean, there are times where we've gone through a thing and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, we'll put like a one word, like obscure word, like a time continuum. Do you know what that meant? No, but it's an important word. Like, I really obviously had a
time continuum into the program now. Like, I really want to find a way of fitting that in. Like, little Easter egg from the podcast.
I actually know where it could go.
Okay, if you are listening to the podcast, when you go and find the program, look out for the time continuum. But it's serious. Like, and the thing about it is that, interestingly, and the weird thing is that it actually makes us more productive. Like, I am far more productive when I'm well resourced. So celebrating me taking time to resource myself is a celebration, because if I don't take time to resource myself, I'm not going to be worth toffee. Like, I mean, literally.
You're so British.
You know what's really funny is that there are, like, I'm in that middle space right now where my American friends think I'm so British, and I hear myself when speaking to my British people, and I'm like, oh, I just said I said route rather than root, or like I hear those moments.
If I ever hear you say basil instead of basil.
Well, the funny thing is like when I'm in the grocery, like if I'm talking to my American people, that's normally what I do. Like when if anyone's been with me to a bar, like one of my favorite things to drink is bourbon. And one of my favorite brands of bourbon that is like my favorite brand at the moment is Angel's Envy, but most places don't carry that. And the one that is in a lot of places is, in my language, Basil Hayden's. Now, if you are in a noisy and a loud bar and you ask for Basil Hayden's, the bartender's like, what? I have to order Basil Hayden's, because if I don't order Basil Hayden's, I don't get a drink. Like,
listening to you with that fancy speak.
Oh dear. So yeah, like I can imagine some of my British people listening to the podcast, and there are moments I'm like, oh, I snuck in there a little bit. Normally I'm really good depending on which audience. Like I have an inbuilt American English to British English translator, and I can switch between them.
It's my Massachusetts. When I go back up to New England, all of a sudden it's like, where did that accent come from? I don't know. I unpacked it when I came up on the plane.
So anyway, I'm celebrating the fact that I can be understood in a bar when I'm trying to order a drink. Back to topic. But yeah, like if I don't take care of myself, I don't take care of my needs, I'm not going to be effective. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be productive. I might do stuff, but that's not the same as being productive. Mm-hmm. And we know that I would rather do 2 hours of good work where I'm producing well than 8 hours where I'm doing mediocre. Mm-hmm. Like genuinely. So I'll celebrate myself for doing 2 hours, and I'll celebrate myself for going and taking a rest, because all of those things are worthy of being acknowledged.
Well, and the self-celebration too is a key component, because I feel like celebrate in just kind of in its general context, you think people, you think like there has to, like, celebrating yourself, like celebrating in general with especially little wins is a hard concept for people to grasp, and not one, as we've said, that's really prominent in our society. But then celebrating yourself on top of it, and like
you're allowed to sit at home on your couch with a tub of glitter and just fling it in the air. Like that's allowed.
I've never done that.
I'm gonna say what? That I don't believe.
I'm like, woo! Yay! Then I'm like, oh shit, I have to clean
it up. Right?
Woo! More glitter.
Yay! I cleaned it up. Woo! Oh, damn it!
I gotta celebrate cleaning up. Ah, fuck. Celebrate cleaning up. Ah, fuck.
You might get caught in that time continuum loop.
Yeah, there you go. You brought it back in.
Oh dear. This is the thing is that, like, I mean, you'll notice there are several times as we're on the podcast, normally silly things. I'll high five Serena. That's my acknowledgement. That's a celebration.
And that's a really good point, because a celebration doesn't, like, it feels different when you say it. It feels different when you say it to yourself. It feels different when you look in a mirror and say it to yourself. It feels different when you say it to somebody else and you're witnessed in it.
Yep.
It feels different when somebody else says it to you. Like, all those have different feels, but it doesn't have to even be a verbal thing. It can be, like, you don't have to tell anybody you're celebrating, but you can give somebody a hug and there's celebration in that hug for whatever reason.
Or just yay.
Yeah.
Like my little happy dance gift, that's my favorite one. Like that's normally a form of celebration.
Yeah.
Like, and Serena, like, I don't have to say, Serena, I'm celebrating you right now. Like, if I give her a high five, she knows that. Like that is an acknowledgement of something that she said or did or whatever. But I think that you made a really good point that self-celebration, like, I mean, you can literally pat yourself on the back. You can literally, yay me. Like, there are...
One thing that I talked about my best friend Melissa quite a few times. One of the first things, I think it was right after I started doing this work, one of the things that I came up with for myself that I told her about, and we've kind of adopted the two of us together, is give yourself a little toot toot.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yes.
what? I was like, toot your own fucking horn. So, like, sometimes we'll be like talking and she's like, I'm just gonna give myself a little toot toot right now, and like, and she says something, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, give yourself, I mean, I walk around and I'm like, toot toot
toot. Yeah.
Like, and it just, like, try it and try not to smile.
Right.
Like,
well, and there's other things that you can do. So like because we're not so great at celebrating ourselves, like and I've seen people do this with like gratitude or like happy memories, but you could do this with celebrations as well. Like when there's something that you want to celebrate about yourself, write that down on a little piece of paper, put it in a jar. And every time you want to celebrate something, write it down, put it in the jar. And then if you're having like a challenging time, get out read the things that are in the jar. I'm like, oh yeah, yay, I did that. Yay, I did that. Yay, I did that. And these things can be big things. I mean, we went all out when we were celebrating the visa. Like, and that's not even the full visa yet. Like, we need we're not on the final stage yet. It's going to be an interesting experience, whatever that's going to look like. We're coming for you. Like, legitimately, it's going to be a very interesting experience. It can be the small things, like very small things, like making a choice that feels good. Like sometimes I'll give myself that. It's funny. Like I don't even know what I just know I'm acknowledging myself. Like I don't even have a term for it, but like that little toot toot when I'm like, okay, right now, like earlier this week, Serena was coming over and she was like, I'm grabbing coffee. Do you want to get one? Now, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that coffee for me is not coffee. It is dessert in a cup. Like it's basically coffee is the vehicle for all the other stuff I want to have, like the salted caramel and all the other things, pumpkin or whatever, that goes with it. But I also know there's a lot of sugar and it's not necessarily what I want to be having. I said, actually, no, I'm going to have a kombucha instead because there's sugar in that, but there's other things in it that are kind of good for me. I'm probably going to feel better drinking that than I will drinking coffee. And like that decision. Now, there are going to be other times where I'm like, I want to meet my wholeness need right now. I want that coffee with all the yummy goodies in it. And I get to toot myself for drinking coffee instead of kombucha. It's not that there is a right way of doing it. It's not that you celebrate doing this or not doing this. You celebrate doing what is right for you in that moment. And that can be a tiny thing, or it could be celebrating hitting the pop screen or not hitting the pop screen, and all the times I don't hit the pop screen. It could be that you're celebrating the little wins on a journey to the big win. So, for example, we celebrate, like the visa is actually a good example of this, where the big thing is like once that comes through and it's like, it's here, yay, like big celebration time. But we celebrated when the first step of the approval came through, and we
we celebrated when we mailed it out.
That was I was working my backwards. So I'm like,
gotcha.
Yeah. So we celebrated when the approval came through. We celebrated mailing it out. We celebrated when the first, like, we're like, okay, it's done, it's off, because that was a big deal. Smaller celebrations, but it was like, yay, we did that. Yay.
Or even just completing. We celebrated in a sense when we finished the binders. Before we sent it off, we're like, okay, this part is done.
Absolutely.
Yes. Like,
we celebrated finishing the report. That meant that we could now start working on the visa. Like, there were lots of little steps that we were able to celebrate. And sometimes those steps aren't like tangible steps. They're not like things that it's like, look, I've done that. Like, we were talking just before we got on about the example that we shared about in a previous 2 episodes ago, I think it was. Where Serena asked me the question about why she's not doing the things that she want to be doing. Where we talked about the projects that we're working on. Like, it's something like I celebrated, and I believe we had the conversation together when we were like, why don't we do this? And I'm like, that feels really good that we're going to be doing this for ourselves. Like, we've done anything yet. We've made the decision, and because we know we're taking action on that decision, and there have been steps. It's like we're working on various aspects of it. We still haven't done anything really yet to actually make that project happen. But we've made decisions, and we're starting the small steps individually that will then create the thing that we're going to be able to do together.
Yeah.
And each of those small things, that's an acknowledgement. I'm like, yeah, look at me, I'm doing this.
The other thing is, too, when you celebrate your own wins, big, small, anywhere in between, you don't need somebody else to celebrate with you.
That.
Like, it does feel, like I said, it feels usually good when you're acknowledged by other people. It feels different. But if I celebrate myself, I don't really give a fuck who celebrates me. Like, I'm like, yeah, I did this. I did good.
Yay me.
I'm proud of myself. Yay me. And it's like, if Claire comes along and she's like, yay you, I'm like, yeah, yay me. But if she doesn't, I'm not looking for it, because I don't need her to meet that acknowledgement need for me. I'm giving it to myself. I'm celebrating myself. And she's a sprinkle on my Sunday.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I was just about to say. It's like, if you learn to do this for yourself, and you don't have to do it in a way that's going to be witnessed by anybody else. Like, you can do, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people, a lot of the time, feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't shout about my wins because other people will judge me, other people won't like it, whatever the other people piece of that is. But I think that you don't need to be witnessed in your celebration for your celebration to be valid. And you don't need to be witnessed in your celebration in order for your celebration to be meeting your acknowledgement need. And if you know how to do this for yourself, yeah, I mean, the cool thing of, like, I mean, everybody needs a Serena in their life, or like, I've heard other people say everyone needs a Claire in their life.
Everybody needs a Claire too.
Yeah, it's like everyone needs someone who you can be like, hey, I did this. It feels awesome. You want to go do this today? Fuck yeah, let's go. Like, what?
I'm not going to get into this story. I'm going to reference it so you're not wondering what's going on in my head right now. But all I'm thinking about is the cleanse and the things we talked about that we'd not talk about with anybody else. The shit we were celebrating.
It's true.
Like,
yes. Yeah.
Quite literally. But it was important in the process that we were
doing. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, I'm acknowledging this. Yeah, I'm acknowledging that. Like,
I mean, literally, hey, I pooped today.
Yay! Like,
and where we were at, that was
a significant thing to be.
It was important in the process we were in. So I mean, like
she's right. She's not wrong.
I'm not wrong. I mean,
and this is what we're talking about, in a sense that you can celebrate anything if it's something that feels important to you for where you're at.
Feels good.
It feels good, yes. Like, literally, if it feels good, you can celebrate. Like, that is something worthy of celebrating. If you are making decisions that are creating something that feels good for you, you are worthy of being celebrated. And I know that on any day of the week, I could call Serena up and be like, I'd probably text her, not call her. I know how she works. I'd be like, I'd be texting.
like, what's wrong?
Yeah, what's going on? But I would be like, hey, this has happened. It feels great. I want to go celebrate. Do you fancy going, like, running down Duval Street with, like, orchids on our heads? And she'd be like, I'm there. Let's go. Like, can I light up my orchid, please? Like, that would probably be the question.
Do you want me to douse them in glitter first? Or...
Like, you want people, and this is the thing, you want to, like, try and find the people who are going to want to celebrate you, because a lot of people, this is the problem when it comes to the acknowledgement need, is that a lot of the time what can happen is if you are surrounded by people who don't have a well met acknowledgement need and their needs are not well met, is that when we acknowledge ourselves, they are internalizing that as being some kind of they're judging themselves for not being where you're at. They're comparing themselves. They are wishing that they had what you had, or that had done what you'd done. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And what can end up happening is the reason that people, like, pull other people down in that situation, again, subconsciously, it's not like a conscious thing. It's like, well, no, why should you be acknowledged? Because I'm not being acknowledged for the stuff that I'm doing, rather than going, fuck yeah, you go you. And look, I did this too. There's this kind of feeling in our society that less is the answer. Like, if you don't celebrate and I don't celebrate, so nobody celebrates. And it's like, well, no, how about I celebrate, you celebrate, and we both celebrate together as well? Like, that's where, like, it starts to get amplified. So you want to be looking for the people, and that's very, very common. And there's way more layers and there's way more nuance to that than that was a very simplified version of that. And there are lots of different versions of that show up. And the thing that is really important to say is, like, look for the people who will celebrate you. Look for the people who want to, as far as I'm concerned, if Serena's doing well at something, like, I want that for her because I love her, and I don't need her to be doing badly for me to feel good about myself.
Right.
I want her to be feeling good, and I want to be feeling good, and I want to celebrate her, and I want to celebrate me, and I know she wants to celebrate me. Like, it becomes this big kind of love puddle. like it's a celebration puddle where it's like, okay, what can we celebrate now?
We're constantly looking for things to celebrate. I mean,
true.
honestly.
Yeah.
That actually brought up a thought with me. And it's also, like, finding the people who will celebrate you, finding people who are like celebrating you. Like you celebrate in a similar way, because Claire and I, the way we celebrate is not for everybody. I know. It's shocking.
Different people, different ways of meeting needs. It's true.
You don't say.
It's funny how that works.
Now, when somebody offers you acknowledgement and celebration, maybe cards aren't your thing. Somebody gives you a card. You're not going to be like, oh, no, I don't do cards.
Sorry. Failed at celebrating me. Try again.
Yeah,
we're not going to be like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Thank you so much.
However, if you have somebody that can tap into, like, all right, like, we're going to celebrate, like, what's actual celebration? Like, some people it's like a little party. Some people it is a card. Some people it's a gift. Some people it's an activity. Like, there are different things.
Some people it is actually sitting at home doing nothing in the quiet. That's their celebration. Just enjoying the feeling.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't, like, celebration doesn't have to be fanfares and confetti like we had earlier. Like, it doesn't have to be that.
It can be whatever that person is.
Right.
Like, if I'm celebrating my husband, Joe, chances are, I've kind of baptized him into this life of creation, celebration, and go big or go home. However,
more like go big or go bigger.
Yeah. But he's a chill guy. And, like,
it's going to be a quieter celebration.
It's going to be a quieter celebration because that's not going to work for him as well as it's going to work for me. And
the larger celebration could cost some of his needs.
Yes.
In addition, yes, it might meet some of them, but it might cost them as well. We don't want that. We want to find the version of celebration that works for the individual.
What I was actually thinking about is we have a friend that's coming to visit in a week who has a milestone celebration. And back where she's living, it doesn't feel celebratory to her. Like, people are acknowledging and they are celebrating, but there's something kind of missing. So I suggested, why don't you come down here and we can celebrate how we celebrate things, because I know that's something that they are into as well.
Yes.
And they were like, yes, I can't, because they can't get that where they are right now. So offering a celebration to somebody, but and also being like, hey, I also know, like, this is 10 years of a lot of work. You want to do nothing?
Right.
Like,
Absolutely. You want to have a night at home and just chill by yourself, and like even that, like the suggesting of that, if that is a celebration that would feel good to that person, you don't have to do it. And again, it's not about you. Like if I'm celebrating Serena, I will do something that I think that Serena wants in terms of celebration. And like when I think back to like Serena's prior birthdays, like I've done the things that I believe Serena will enjoy. I also have someone very close to me who their idea of an amazing birthday is to go to the beach, go in the water, eat some food, come home and chill. And they don't really care if anybody else, that's what they want to do. If the other people are there, fine, but they don't really want a big fanfare. They don't want any of that stuff. So we have to celebrate in the way that works for the individual. That's the cool thing about celebrating yourself. You can celebrate you in the way that you want to celebrate you. And if you can find other people who are going to connect in with that and going to be like, yeah, I want to celebrate you in that way too. And I mean, and if you're really, really lucky, you end up finding a Serena or a Claire where one of us will say, how do you fancy doing this? And then the other person will go, well, what if we also did that? And we're like, yes. Like they take, like each of us will take the inspiration that the other one has had and just build on it and grow and expand it. Because that's the kind of celebration that we enjoy. And having somebody else who feeds into that, who's not just going to connect and be there and enjoy it with you, who actually was like, oh, let's have
see
some
what
fun.
you're saying.
Yes.
And
what about this? And that's how we end up with these massive, ridiculous things that we do, because that's us. And celebration has to work for the individual. And it's like, and the thing about it is that the reason that kind of celebration is us is not because anybody, like, I think a lot of people would do that sort of stuff for the spectacle, for like other people looking at them going, what are they doing? No, we just did. It wouldn't matter if we were, I was going to say on a desert island, we kind of already are. Like we were on an island with nobody else there. We would still do the same kind of celebration if it was just us. Like,
I mean, Joe and I, pretty much right after Larry died, like not like right after, but within a couple of days, we were like, okay, we need to create something because this mood isn't working for us. And it wasn't necessarily a celebration, but I think it's a good example for in here.
Yeah.
We put on some of those inflatable costumes that you like that are really popular, and we just want walking around our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not a Keysy neighborhood in the celebration sense.
You could do that down Duval Street and everyone would be like, yeah, doing that where they live is not necessarily going to yield the same response. Yeah.
But we were like, you know what? This is going to make us happy. This is like,
we're going to have
fun. And we walked around the neighborhood and we got some looks. We got some waves. We got some people that are like, and we're like, we're just spreading smiles. And they're like, cool, have a good day. And it was like, we didn't care. It was almost more we could have been judged more than spectacle, like bringing it in. But it was like, that made us feel good.
Right.
So just do it. And it made us feel good in a self-first way.
Yeah.
It was not going to benefit. It wasn't going to be to the detriment of anybody else. And there were a couple of people who had actually improved their day. Right. So, and that's something, and I bring it up because that's something in my world kind of celebratory. Let's put on a costume and, just go to the grocery store. Like, let's just have fun. And sometimes that's what celebration is. It's like, let me just create something
that feels fun and feels good.
Or feels good. Let me create relaxation to celebrate that I just finished this long thing and I know I need a rest.
Right. Absolutely. So I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is that it's not just about the big things. It's not just about the small things. It's about taking that moment to acknowledge yourself in the way that feels good for you. And Serena and I will do the big fanfare thing. We'll also do the I don't even say anything. I just give her a high five. Like, there's all these kind of different forms of celebration. it's about picking whichever one works for you in this moment where you're at with what you have capacity for, because there are times when, so like some of the cleanup is like, I don't have the capacity to deal with cleaning that up today. So we find a different way of doing it. Like sometimes it's to do with actually what feels like resonant with where my energy is today. Like I'm in a like go big or go bigger energy, or I'm in a like, yay. Like that might be where my energy's at. Like finding what resonates with where you're at and doing this first and foremost for yourself. Because as Serena said, I don't need her to celebrate me. If she does, sprinkles on the Sunday. And if she doesn't, I still get acknowledged. And this is kind of this base level of the need stuff. It's like, it's not that we don't, like when you're in community, you're going to end up meeting people's needs and like interacting with other people's needs. It's not, we are social creatures. Of course, we want to have that engagement with other people. But the key thing is to do it for ourselves at our base level first, so that we have all the things that we need at that base level. And then someone else comes along and just chucks some sprinkles on your Sunday, like, well, they're fun. Thanks. Right. Like it's still a really good Sunday without it. It just adds that little something extra. And
I want to mention there is actually a chemical component to this that happens when you do things like acknowledge yourself, celebrate your wins. You get this dopamine boost.
Like dopamine, like gets one of the ways in which, I mean, again, very simplified version, but one of the ways that that it shows up is that if you set small goals and you do them and you acknowledge them when they're done, you get that dopamine boost. And what it actually does is has you wanting to do more of those things. So it actually helps with your motivation to do those things. So yeah, like there are so many different elements and so many different ways in which this can support you. And as I said, this is not something that socially we are very good at doing. And I don't know about you, but I personally would like to be a part of bucking that trend.
Absolutely.
In fact, we'd like to be a part of annihilating that trend, and just pulling it apart and being like, yes, let us celebrate ourselves. And it's interesting because I was part of a group a while back. This is kind of coming to mind in this context. And they used to do this thing called the daily brag. Now, I don't know why, but there was something about that word that didn't feel entirely good. Like it kind of felt like bragging to me is like, I'm going to tell you how good I am. And there's almost like a comparison thing in there. Like, how am I better than you? And it's really important that we don't kind of drop into that energy where it's like, let me tell you how much better than you I am, because that gets into really red spectrum value need, personal power need, power dynamics. It's not good for anybody. That doesn't support you. But just acknowledging and honoring you, that is a very different thing. Like when we shift from this, like, I'm going to do this in comparison with you, to actually, I'm just acknowledging myself right now, and I don't really care if anyone else is a part of it or not.
You have nothing to do with this.
Yeah. If you want to come and join in, great. And if it doesn't serve you to come and join in, great. I'm having my little one-person dance party. If that dance party looks like chilling out on the couch, like it doesn't matter what that looks like. And actually, like that's a kind of another example from my life. Whereas anybody who listens to this regularly knows I hate accounts, I hate numbers, I hate having to do all of that stuff. Like it's a necessary part of what we do, and I hate it. And so I was in a pattern where, because I hated it, I didn't do it as the year went on, which meant that at the end of the year I had a stack of stuff to do. So like, not only was I doing stuff I didn't like, I had a lot of the stuff I didn't like to do. And so what I would do is I would, every month, I was trying to get myself into the habit of doing it more regularly. And actually, I'm just realizing that we don't do this. And I'm going to initiate this as part of our monthly accounts procedure. So at the end of doing the accounts, when I was doing this by myself, I would do a one-person dance party. I'd have a little one-person dance party. I'd put on a song and I'd dance and be like, yay me, I did the thing. I did the thing that's going to mean that at the end of the year, I don't have to deal with this massive headache. I've still got to do the year-end accounts and deal with all of that. But I don't have to do a year's worth of the processing to then have to do the thing that I have to do once a year anyway. And that one, like taking that little moment to be like, yay me, I did the thing. And I did it by myself. I did it for myself. But the interesting thing is that I knew that there were 2 people in my life who knew what a big deal this was to me. And I would send them a little text message like, hey, just having my one person monthly accounts dance party. Like I did my accounts this month. And it added that layer to it. Like I enjoyed it no matter what I was doing, but also then sharing that with people who I knew would enjoy that, it added that additional layer into it. So I'm going to suggest we add a 2-person accounts monthly dance party.
Twist my arm.
I know. I had a feeling I might resonate with that.
Yeah. A tiny bit.
So the key thing here is acknowledge this for yourself, acknowledge yourself, meet your acknowledgement need first and foremost, and find the ways of doing it that really work for you with where you're at. Like I'm the person who a 1-person dance accounts party sounds like a good idea. Somebody else would be like, can I just have a cup of tea?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I've celebrated many a times with the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. So anything you want to add before we finish up?
Nope.
So we are going to finish this up with just thank you for being here. Mm-hmm. Just thank you for being a part of this journey. And if there is something you would like to celebrate about the 100 episodes, that there's something like, oh my God, this was really helpful for me, or like, please let us know. We would love that. It really helps us to also realize what the things are that work for you. And so we can do more of that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll speak to you again really soon. And between now and next time, to stay safe, to take care of yourself, and remember to continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review,
as it will help more people find us. And remember, whether it's by yourself or with others, it meets your needs to celebrate your wins.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.